Let's talk Browns, though, for a second, guys. For the first time since Kevin Stefanski became the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, he is attending both the Shrine Bowl practices and the Senior Bowl practices, interviews, and game this week in hopes to finding his next franchise quarterback. With that information and the fact the Browns have an obvious glaring need at the position, despite what some recent mock drafts have indicated, is there any way the Browns are not taking a quarterback at 2? And 2, real quick.
Yeah.
Why hasn't Stefanski done this in the past?
Well, I think part of the reason, I don't know. I think there's 2 reasons you could come up with why Kevin Stefanski is here now and hasn't been in the past. So let's start with that. One is what I've said a few times now, and I think everybody agrees, is that he's taking more control of the team. So maybe that's the reason. But I think another reason is this is the first time since Kevin Stefanski's been here that the Browns should be looking for a quarterback in the first round of the draft. He got here, Baker was here. Then they traded for Deshaun Watson. The Browns have never, at least as far as we know, seriously considered drafting a quarterback early in the Kevin Stefanski era. So this is the first time. So that could be the reason why. And it might be a combination of the two, that they need a quarterback this year and he has more control. Anybody have a different take on it?
First off, I don't know why they don't go to everything.
There's no downside.
This has been my issue.
We've complained about it
for a long time, and I go back to when I was going down covering the Browns at the Senior Bowl, and I went for about 8 years. And I'd be there, and there was like never anybody from the Browns there. They'd send the GM and that whole deal, but they wouldn't send the coaches. And like, why? I don't understand. I don't understand why the Browns wouldn't go to Ohio State's pro day sometimes. Like, are you free? You can get in the car. You can go. You can be home for lunch.
Yeah,
like
it is
what's
crazy.
so important you have to do in Berea that you can't go. Like I would be everywhere. You have unlimited resources. Jimmy's got probably 19 private jets lined up. Just pop on one.
Yeah.
You know, like what are we doing?
It's a great point, and we used to complain about this a lot.
Please talk.
On Bull and Fox, and fans would often like fight against us, saying, "Well, he doesn't need to. They got this guy." What is the downside? What is the downside to the coach going to any of these things? There is none.
There's no downside, and there's always upside.
Always.
Because you're always going to talk to somebody.
That's right.
You're going to meet somebody. You may watch a player in a pro day that you don't end up drafting, but you see something. Like Belichick used to do this all the time, notorious for it. He'd interview players, quarterbacks that he knew he wasn't going to take because he just wanted to know about the player so that he could then, down the line, maybe face him in the AFC title game. Well, all of a sudden, you know a little bit about Lamar Jackson. Okay. You can learn something. You may meet somebody at the Senior Bowl or at the Shrine Bowl or wherever that all of a sudden in 2 years is your quarterback coach.
Yeah.
Because the guy's looking for a gig. Who knows? What are we doing?
Don't the Browns got
Browns are too consumed in Zooms.
Don't we have somebody coaching at the Senior Bowl?
Trone, is coaching the American team, I believe.
What is he like? What is he, the head?
No, the head coach. He's the head coach of the American team. It's American versus national. Or
Shrine Bowl.
Oh.
It's not international. It's like American versus national.
You're talking about the Senior Bowl.
The Senior Bowl has staffs don't they?
Ventrone's, I believe, I'll double check, but I believe Ventrone's the head coach of one of the two teams.
Yeah.
At the Senior Bowl.
At the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl?
The Senior Bowl, I thought the whole staff.
It's a Senior Bowl is always a whole staff.
It was. Well, I think they, because when I went to the Senior Bowl,
from the Browns official release, and I'll read this, Bubba Ventrone named American team head coach for the Senior Bowl.
Okay. That's crazy. Switched up. Because when I was there, we had, it was Dallas versus Jacksonville. I was on Dallas's coach's staff.
What year was that?
16.
Yeah, I was there.
You was there?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Covering it.
That's wild.
The rest of the staff, by the way, for the American team, the Giants running backs coach is the offensive coordinator. The Colts defensive line coach is the defensive coordinator, and the 49ers special teams quality control coach is the special teams coordinator.
This must be a new thing that they're doing.
It must be.
Mixing up the
because the head coaches are not there, or at least not.
But that's a reason for Kevin to go down there. But I do think ultimately the reason that he is going to both is because you think about it, at 2, you meet with Shador, obviously. That's the guy that everybody's talking about, and I think that he fits kind of what you want in your quarterback as far as the decision-making goes. I think he's the best option there. So I think you want to meet with him there, and then you go to the Senior Bowl and you want to meet with a Jalen Milroe because I think he's at that game. And I think that if you hit it off with Jalen Milroe and you really like this guy, okay, now at 2, now I don't have to take a quarterback because Jalen Milroe will probably be there in the second round. So maybe I take a Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter or something like that, and then I go with Jalen Milroe in the second round. Or you find out that you like Shedeur, he checks all your boxes. Boom, now I know. That's another interview that I could sneak in there because he'll probably have to meet again at the combine. They'll talk probably again at pro day. You could probably bring him in for a private workout, all those things. But this is another way for Kevin to get a chance to talk to Shedeur or Jalen Milroe in this whole draft process.
Come on, man.
By the way, this is the third year they've done the Senior Bowl. It's called the Coach Up format. So they're putting guys, and this is probably Jim Nagy's doing. You want to push guys to give them opportunities to have a coach up role. So if you're like a special teams guy, well then you be the head coach.
I like that program.
Or you're the quarterback coach, and then you're the OC for the game.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's a good
what
idea.
I don't like, what I don't like, in the words of Chief Keef, what are y'all doing, man?
Bang, bang.
What are y'all doing? Like, they got the nerve to go to these combines and ask these players, do you like football or do you love football?
What's wrong with that question?
Well, I'm asking the same damn question to Kevin Stefanski. Do you like coaching or do you love coaching?
Okay.
Because if you love coaching, you'd go to every opportunity you could to see players, to scout players, to evaluate players,
You're right.
and to get insight on your craft. You just don't show up and don't go.
Like, he's going now.
But listen, that's three wins later.
I hear you.
Again, I always say it when people say, "Gee, Bush, you're too hyperbolic." You just always. I mean, what do you want from these people? I want the same level of accountability that we give to Jed Wills. Jed Wills is bad at his job, right? He was. Mm-hmm. But some of these coaches, to admit that you now because you need a quarterback, now you're showing up. See, you don't fail or succeed in one day. It's the habits. Do you stack the habits together? And they tell you that all the time, or are you spotty? That's the difference between Alabama and Ohio State and teams that are like Minnesota. Listen, you got to play, and especially if you're Minnesota and you play in Ohio State, you got to be better than what they is. The effort in the getting out of bed and doing the research and due diligence, that's just to compete. You still might get blown out because they got more talent. I'm glad at this point. Maybe he saw the light. I love extreme pressure. I love it. I love when your back is against the wall because you start to see what people's about. You see what he's much more direct this year. Oh, no. By the way, I'm calling plays. I reserve the right to change my mind. Okay, Kev. Oh, by the way, I'm going to the Senior Bowl. I'm interviewing everybody. I'll be down there myself. I love it. I like that you hands-on, but this is the energy you got to keep throughout the season. Now, what I want to see is this same Kevin Stefanski when the training camp come around.
You know what, though?
Yeah, we working hard.
You know what I think? I think, to be honest with you, I think you're right to a certain extent. I think that the reason that Kevin is going down, outside of all the things that I said about meeting with the quarterbacks, this is a must-have-it season. You know, a lot of the times, you're right. Quarterback, we got the quarterback pretty much established. That's really my main job anyways, to make sure that this offense is looking good and all those things. So I'm going to let the scouts go out there, and we just going to trust what the scouts say. Now, as you know, as a lot of fans know, the scouts have not been 100% correct in these last couple of years.
I'd take 50.
I hate to say it. They've missed. They haven't been right. But when your job's on the line here, now my livelihood's on the line, you know what? Yeah, the scout can go down there, but I got to go down there and see it too for myself. Because I got to make sure that the person that the scout brings in and say, this is the guy that we got to draft. Now I can say, you know what? I was at the Senior Bowl. I watched that kid.
Yeah.
You know what? That guy is going to be good for us. See, I think that also is why he actually went down there as well.
And more than anything else, if they draft a quarterback at 2, or even if they drafted a quarterback at 30, 34?
33.
33? Either way, if they draft a quarterback that high, and it appears after the first year they drafted the wrong guy, then they're 100% fired.
Oh, yeah, they're going anyway.
100%. Quarterback more than anything else. The Browns have to be – I mentioned this yesterday on my podcast, but the Browns don't have to make the playoffs for Kevin, in my opinion. Don't have to – I know everybody wants them to make the playoffs, sure. They don't have to make the playoffs for Kevin Stefanski to keep his job.
They're not making the playoffs next year.
They're probably not. Probably not, right? But at the end of next season, we have to say as a group, it's clear they're headed in the right direction.
Yes, and
I think that's the minimum standard for Kevin Stefanski keeping his job next year.
Totally agree. It's not about wins or losses next year. It's not. It's about progress. It's about showing there's some promise in the young quarterback, whoever that may be. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. They could.
It's unlikely
unless they draft somebody who's Jaden Daniels,
right?
Which would be very rare. He's
the
best quarterback rookie we've ever seen.
And in this division and this conference,
right.
even if you did draft Jaden Daniels, which is unlikely,
challenge,
it would still be hard.
All we want,
we're not in the NFC South here, folks.
You want 6 or 7 games, some exciting games where you was in the game with teams you weren't supposed to beat, or you get a couple of games where you be like, man, you see that throw that rookie do?
Yeah,
like that's all you want.
Yeah, you know how in the NFL they made a rule for what a catch is, but we all, even as kids, even me, who never played any high level of football,
know what a catch is.
I know what a catch is. I don't need a rule to tell me what a catch is.
Yeah.
You know what a catch is.
Right.
We all knew it playing ball as kids. Same thing with the Browns. We know what progress is.
Yeah.
We'll know.
We will know if you know football at all. You know when a team's making progress, and you know when they're not.
Just like that first year when Baker came in, I believe at the end of that season, they were like 8-9-1 or something. Or
you're talking about Baker's rookie year?
Rookie year.
When they broke the Budweiser seal against the Jets on Thursday night, and then they had a nice little run to the end of the year?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, they still had an outside chance of making
They were in the hunt.
The playoffs. They had, I think the Steelers had to lose, and we had to beat the Ravens.
Right.
And so the game comes down the line, and I think Baker ends up throwing for like 300-some yards.
That was on the road at Baltimore.
On the road and guess what? We was all like, boy.
Yeah.
I'm excited for next year. You look because you saw it. You like we was this guy got us 8-9 wins. Like we was right in this thing. We was excited going into the next year. So if they get the quarterback and it looks like they get it right, that's going to relieve so much pressure off their shoulders because once you got that, think about the Commanders. They just got beat. Yeah. You think they care?
Well, and all these things we're talking about here, guys, is the exact reason why the Browns are going to take quarterback at 2 because they're getting fired regardless. So they better swing at somebody at 2 and hope that the best quarterback that they can get turns out to be a really, really good player. Because if it doesn't, they're fired either way. So who cares? And what skin do they have in the game? They're getting fired if they draft the wrong player, they're getting fired. If they don't draft a player and they don't win, then you're getting fired.
That's
so
right.
might as well just take the free shot.
And it used to be if you drafted a quarterback high and blew it, you were screwed because you had to pay him a lot.
Yeah, they don't.
But nowadays with the salaries, it doesn't. You could look what happened with the Cardinals. They drafted Josh Rosen. The next year they drafted Kyler Murray.
And they be still looking for a quarterback. Still right now, like they look kind of sideways. Like, don't you get it twisted? We'll go back.
But I think they will probably draft a quarterback at 2. I'll be surprised if they don't ultimately. And I know there's a lot of people out there don't think these quarterbacks are good. I spoke with Sean King yesterday. He doesn't think any of these quarterbacks are good. And maybe they're right.
If the pick is one of these 3 players at 2, I'm good. If it's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, or Shador, I'm good with it.
I like that.
So if Cam Ward, you're going to rip him?
I don't think he'll be there.
Well, we don't know. I'm saying.
If he is, listen. I'm along them same lines.
Yeah.
If they get either,
I just don't think Cam Ward fits exactly what Kevin wants.
If they get either one of them quarterbacks, or Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, I'm fine with it. If they're going to trade back and still get a quarterback, because they got to get a quarterback regardless.
Yeah.
It might not be at 2, but they got to get one regardless. I would prefer earlier rather than later waiting around. But there's only 2 scenarios that I don't want no parts of. And I'm going to let you know right now, I'm going the hardest I've ever. You thought I was going crazy with the 5,000 with Watson? Under no circumstances do I want to hear Mason Graham's name anywhere near a top 5. I don't want no left tackles. Stop playing around with me. We're not about to draft a tackle in the top 5. Aaron Donald didn't go in the top 5. Warren Sapp didn't go in the top 5. Cortez Kennedy didn't go in the top 5. Hayward for Pittsburgh didn't go in the top 5. You gonna take this D tackle? Stop.
Let me ask Tyvis a question real quick, then we'll get to the next quarterback topic, which I know you're ready to get to. But Ty, you said Cam Ward you don't think fits Kevin Stefanski's system. If the Browns believe that Cam Ward is the best quarterback in the draft, and he is available at number 2, shouldn't the Browns adapt their system to fit what Cam Ward does, as opposed to trying to pinhole Cam Ward into Stefanski's system? Isn't that what good offensive coaches do?
If you draft Cam Ward and he doesn't fit your system, then to me it sounds like you just got Deshaun Watson all over again.
I think that's living in your fears.
I think you'll get the same thing. Because if they didn't adapt, if they tried to blow it all up and then it didn't work with that, and you're going to blow up, if you taking over play calling again, because you said, all right, I gave up play, which the Deshaun Watson thing was kind of crazy because you went and got Ken Dorsey because he specialized in more what Deshaun wants to do, but then you call the plays, and then once Deshaun goes out, then Ken calls the plays, but Ken was brought here to help Deshaun. That whole thing to me is still wild, and I don't understand it, but whatever. But to me, like, you're going to go back to doing that again to where, like, all right, if you didn't work with Deshaun and you couldn't get through to Deshaun, and this Cam Ward kid kind of resembles the same things, some things you got to coach him out of holding the ball, taking the good play and not trying to always look for the great play and things like that. If you didn't get it through to him, to Deshaun, who's got the same problems, why do you think you're going to get it through to this kid?
Because he's a different kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you got to adjust to your quarterback. Harbaugh coached Joe Flacco, and then he coached Lamar Jackson. They have two different types of offense. The coach has got to adjust some, and he did. The offense wasn't exactly the same with Baker as it was with Deshaun Watson these last couple of years. So there's some adjustment, but the quarterback has got to be able to do some different things too and be open to that also.
What I would say for Cam Ward, you started off at a real low level playing football. You were good there. You go to Washington State, they ask you to do some different things. You play at a higher level, you won there. Then you go to Miami. They ask you to do some different stuff, you won there. I like your sample size. At every single level of the college game, he's played and he's been one of the best at his position. Now, is he a perfect prospect? No. None of these guys are perfect prospects. But that is in the heat of the battle and what you get paid for as a coach is bringing out the characteristics that people may not know he had, and then minimizing some of his negative aspects of his game to get him to play a certain way. You'd be surprised, and this is just really quick, you'll be surprised what somebody will do when you go and say, hey, we know we had Deshaun Watson, but we got faith in you. Mm-hmm. You are different.
And just to piggyback your point, it's a really good one, is that every place he's been, he's had to level up. Okay, you earned the right to go, like Incarnate Ward, FCS program, right? You take them to, I think they maybe went to the semifinals or maybe went to the title game prior to him going to Washington State. So he leveled up, he gets to go then play Division I, Power 4, Power 5. And then he goes from Washington State to a better program. Mm-hmm. Well, on paper, I guess a better program, in terms of a blue blood Miami, but they hadn't been Miami since the early 2000s. Right. And so he takes them to a place where they've won the most wins since they basically had when Ken Dorsey was taking them up and down the field against everyone except Ohio State. So then he goes to Miami, takes them to a 10-2 record. On 1 year.
Yeah.
So to be able to put the pressure on because you come to Cleveland, it's going to be a huge burden. It's similar to what Baker was able to handle. If you're a strong personality and a really good player and you can go in there and as a young player take on that responsibility, which I think Cam Ward has proven that he can do. Baker Mayfield did it in college, and Baker, because he was a walk-on and then he had to earn it and then go to Oklahoma, that whole thing. We know the story. It's well documented. I think Cam Ward's got the ability to do that. And he's the one player that I would be comfortable with at 2. I don't know enough about Shedeur Sanders to know if it's a fit. I think we all sort of look at the Deion angle and think that it may be a lot of baggage or whatever that comes along with it, and that may be true. I don't know. I've watched a lot of Cam Ward, probably more Cam Ward this year than Shedeur, and I really like what I see. So I'm comfortable with either player at 2. I think that Cam Ward's probably going to be there. And if he is, I'm cool with that.
Go watch that Florida tape.
What I like about both,
nice.
What I like about both with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders is they started a lot of games in college.
Yeah,
they both played a lot. I always get nervous.
And by the way, they both played it at the FCS level.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. So they earned their way.
And so they've seen what it's like to throw to a receiver who's wide ass open. Right. And then it gets a little tighter. You're playing P4, right? You're playing at Colorado. You're playing at Miami. It's a little bit tighter. And then when you get to the NFL, it's going to be even tighter than that.
Right.
So those guys are not going to be coming to the league like,
when I think about Cam Ward and I just watched how he played, kind of remind me a lot of Caleb Williams last year at USC. to where they had this explosive offense, but their defense was just so trash that it took heroic moments by the quarterback to even have them in the game. And I guess my only thing that I didn't like, I understood it to a certain extent. I see it, but then I understand why people look at it negatively too. Was the bowl game thing where he stayed in to get the record?
That's
It's a bullshit
story.
take.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But I understand why people are upset by
do?
it. Because they kind of look at it like, oh, he quit on his team.
But they
most
knew.
of
But
the people
I-
that
but
are
then I'm
saying
like-
that didn't watch a second of the Miami Hurricanes this year, and also don't even know the situation.
Yeah.
Like, why'd he play? Why'd they put him in there? Like, he could have just sat out the game altogether.
Right.
He played because he wanted the
coulda-
all-time passing touchdowns record.
Did
Like,
he
good for
finish
him.
with that?
He
Or
got
did-
it. Yeah, he got it.
My guess is-
No, I'm saying, did Dylan Gabriel retake it from him? That's
Oh,
what-
I don't know.
I don't believe
My
so.
guess is not a single player on that team had a beef with that.
No.
They probably did.
And if his teammates don't, then why would anybody else?
But
care?
I was reading that, and I'm just like,
Yeah, I think that's
I was like, I see why y'all feel like that, but if I got a chance to get a record,
nah, those people
I
are
would take it too.
nitwits.